Module 1B, Enacting a Proactive Belief System. Before we look at instructional strategies and collaborative strategies, coaching strategies, and the like, we really want to back up and think about our philosophy, think about our belief system, and how we approach our work. Because whatever we believe impacts how we act and behave. So I'd like to take some time to present to you a framework that we found to be very useful with educators in terms of improving their own practice, and particularly for those in roles of advocacy and leadership for historically underserved population. And in this case, we're working with our English language learner population. So this framework is from the work of Stephen Covey, who wrote The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People and many other publications about personal change and empowerment. And this framework can really help us think about what is our belief system. Are we going to be proactive or reactive in our work as teacher leaders? So what Stephen Covey does is he has these two different circles that can frame the way we think. We have our circle of concern and we have our circle of influence. The circle of concern is everything within that is things that we care about, things that we worry about, and things that are on our mind. Okay, these can be global issues, personal issues, professional issues. As an educator in an increasingly complex world, some of the things in our circle of concern that we could probably agree on might be implementing standards that are new and more rigorous and more complex than ever before. For English language learners, it's implementing pieces of the WIDA framework and ensuring that we're scaffolding and using language objectives appropriately, and really being sure that we're being appropriate in terms of our instructional approach. We're also very concerned about the way in which students behave in school and the complex family situations and home situations when they come to us hungry, tired, traumatized, not ready to learn, and all sorts of issues that we deal with that really concern us as educators, as those responsible for the success of students. So those are some of the things that might be in our circle of concern. And really, we need to think about what of those things are within our circle of influence. So the things that are within our circle of influence are those things that we actually can have an influence over, or those things that we actually can control. So, for example, if a student is coming to school hungry, what can we do about that? Can we actually provide a breakfast for that student? And if we don't have a breakfast program at our school, can we provide a granola bar? I know I used to keep them in my closet as a teacher. I can try to help with that larger issue that's in my circle of concern, just with one little thing that's in my circle of influence. So when we think about all the things that we're worried about and that we're concerned about, we really want to discern those things that we actually can have an impact on. And those are within our circle of influence, okay? So a note about that. Those of us who live within our circle of influence, we understand the things that we can actually have an impact on. And we work hard at discerning what those things are. And we live a life of being proactive. We live a life of being empowered and making a difference in those little things that are within our circle of influence. As we work on those things, our circle of influence actually expands and we start to have an impact on the things in our circle of concern. So for example, with the hungry child, we might start by, instead of saying, I can't do anything about it, we might start by saying, I'm going to give this child a granola bar, and then I'm going to talk to my principal about, maybe we can look into getting a lunch program at our school if we don't have one already, right? And we can continue to advocate and have an impact outside of our circle of influence, the more empowered and proactive we are. So again, people who live within the circle of influence, those are people who are really focused on being empowered and focused on what they can do about. It's a can-do attitude. It's an asset-based way of thinking. On the other hand, folks who live within the circle of concern most of the time, granted we go back and forth depending on situations, but those who live primarily in the circle of concern, those people focus on what they can't control and feel weak and disempowered as a result. Those people are reactive, and really what happens is their circle of concern increases and really takes over the circle of influence. And so the circle of influence is really so little because I can't do anything about it. I don't have control. I don't have responsibility over things in my life. And that's really an attitude of victimization. And that's an attitude of giving your energy away in order to not be responsible and not be able to change things in your life. So as long as we're working within our circle of influence, we're being proactive. And again, we may even have influence on things outside of that into our circle of concern. So I'd like to just have you think about this concept if it's never been introduced to you already, and really consider it as a teacher leader, as an emerging teacher leader for English language learners. Along with this concept, I'm going to have you read an article that I wrote with a colleague about our work in enacting this belief system with teachers of English language learners in Worcester, Massachusetts. And this article is really going to show you different ways in which we can participate in collaborative inquiry and how we can be proactive when we're in complex teaching situations. The link for the article is below, but before you read it, I would like for you to consider which of these two questions you will answer after you read, okay? So you're going to, Common Core Standards, cite evidence from the text and add your own experiences to your answer in order to synthesize what you've learned. And I'd like for you to write a couple sentences. You don't have to write a paragraph. If you'd like to write a paragraph or more, feel free. But I'd like for you to write at least several sentences answering one of these two prompts. And as you can see, the first one is explain how having this proactive mindset relates to improving our practice to serve ELLs more effectively. And the second one is to really share the different ways that inquiry can occur to improve our practice and student learning. And there's some examples in the article for both of these, so please cite that evidence, but then also absolutely please add your own experiences. This is really about learning from you and bringing in your own experiences into the learning. Below this video is a Google document where you can submit your responses, and you'll see that there's an area for question 1, an area for question 2. So not only are you going to answer one of these questions, but I'd also like you to respond after someone else answers. So you'll see the space to do that. And the idea is to start to have a discussion so that before we meet face to face, we've already interacted somewhat around this concept. So go ahead and do that now.